What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the latest episode of Monday Metal Mayhem. And yeah, I'm a day late. It's Tuesday. I'm sorry about that. Anyways, let's get right into it. So this new song I'm working on is nowhere near complete. In fact, I only have an A and a B section, or actually an intro and a verse. What I want to do today is basically go through my current method for quantizing, which is kind of like an upscaled version of what I was doing previously, and I'm not using flextime, so this is a little bit different. Let me know in the comments if you guys are doing something similar or some derivation of this. Anyways, let's check it out. So you get the point. There's a little clean intro and then it goes into some heavy guitars, obviously. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is I wanna work on these two sections right here. And sorry guys, I need my old man glasses. Much better. Okay, this section right here is what I wanna work on, and I wanna quantize it, and then we're gonna compare it to the original non-quantized version to see which one we like better. I'm gonna talk through all the steps as we go through them. So first off, selecting the regions I want to work on, and I'm going to duplicate them by clicking Option, click and drag, so we can kind of work on them and then later compare them to the originals here. First off, we want to do one region at a time, and I like to zoom in so we can really see what we're looking at here. So the first few notes of this lick are in a different tempo, I think, so I'm not going to quantize them with the rest of it. So let's just find out where we're going to begin. Right there where we start doing the longer notes. So right there, so I want to select both regions, Command T to cut them. I'm not going to worry about these two pieces for now. We're just going to worry about the larger sections back here. So we're going to quantize this first. So what you want to do before anything else is basically hit E to pull up your editor. Make sure you're on the File tab. If you're not for some reason, just select File. And then in order to detect the transients, you don't need a special key command. I don't know why some people do that. The button's right there. Boom, detected. Now here you're going to have to review all of the transient markers that are put in here automatically to make sure they're at where they should be. Like they should be right on the transient, as opposed to the pick attack or the little squink noise you kind of get when you're moving your fingers from one note to the next. So depending also on how tight you really want it to sound. If you want it to sound robotic, you definitely want to do this. So make sure it's right on the transients. And I want to get this one pretty tight right here. That's just the feel I'm going for with this particular song. I want this to be tight, just locked into the grid. So we're checking it out. After a while, you just kind of get used to eyeing where the mistakes are. I can see this one clearly needs to be moved over to the transient like that. So just click and drag. But you can listen to any section that you're currently in with this little pane, this little window here. I didn't realize this until today. Just click and hold and it'll play it for you. So that's very helpful. So wherever this window pane is here, and you just click and hold, that's where it's going to start playing from. So you get the feel for this whole little lick here. So if you see anything, like I said, that's kind of out of place, you definitely want to click and drag, or you can, sometimes there are extra transient markers that are placed in there that really shouldn't be at all. Like for instance here, I'm not sure if this one should be here. So we'll take a listen to that. Yeah, but it's at the wrong place. So we're gonna move it closer to that transient. There we go. Depending on how long your region or your section is that you're working on, this can take you a couple of minutes. I mean, it's no big deal, but it matters. So you can't really skip this step. This is of primary importance to the rest of the process.
Step one. We can have lots of fun.
So we're going through it. We're almost done here. And I'll speed this up in real time. Okay. That looks pretty good. Here's another instance where, see, it's kind of on the pick attack or the little squink. It should be on the biggest part of the transient right there. And we're all set. So E to get back out of that. Now what you want to do is set up a key command to slice at transients. There is a key command already in the system. It's like a 3-key option deal, but I switched it to simply Shift A, which I stole that from Nick Broomhall. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing, right? It's a lot simpler. You're going to use this so often that I'd rather have 2 keys than 3. It just slows the, it just speeds up your workflow. Now we have sliced at the transients. We can take a look at that if we zoom in. And indeed, that's what it has done. Looks good. Now the next step is going to be selecting all those regions except for the first one that we're not working on. Remember, we're leaving that one out. We're not going to quantize that. So everything else is selected. Now you want to press D to bring up the event window. And then here is where you're going to do your quantizing. So I already know that these are eighth notes, so I'm going to select eighth note to quantize. It's just perform the function. D to close that back out. Now if we take a look at this, we zoom in a little bit and click off of it, you'll see that there's these little faint dotted lines every so often. That's because, for whatever reason, even though I have my drag set to no overlap, there still overlaps. As you can see, this region should be back there, but it's not. So you're going to get a lot of these, depending, especially if you're playing something that's like continuous notes as opposed to choppy percussive rhythms with a lot of like, you know, breaks, audible breaks in between the notes. This is just continuous notes. So you're going to get a lot of these overlapping regions here. So you want to zoom in a little bit, like I have here, and then go to the start of, you know, all the notes you want to quantize. Select the first one that's overlapped. And another key indicator besides that faint little dotted line is the fact that you cannot see the upper right corner unless you click on that region. Now you can see the curved corner. When it's like this, you can't. So what you want to do is, you know, look for that too, and then select all of those. Select the first one rather. Press and hold the shift button down, and then go through like with a fine-tooth comb and select all the subsequent regions that are overlapping. If you're not sure if it's overlapping, it looks like it just might be by a little bit, like here. Sometimes it's so close you can't see the dotted line. Just select it anyways. You're not going to hurt it because, you know, it's such a small amount, so many, you know, short samples that it's going to be inaudible. So you're not going to affect much. I'm not really certain here if this one or isn't overlapping, so we'll do that. Same thing there. And depending on how long your riff is or the section that you're working on, this process here is probably the most time intensive. This can take you anywhere from 30 seconds to, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to time lapse this and just kind of speed through it. But in real time, this takes me about 3 to 4 minutes, I would say. So make sure you do not let go of that shift button or you're going to have to start all over again, which I did that. That's how I know.
Step by step, ooh, baby.
Basically, I'm utilizing Nick Broomhall's quantized method. He did a video on it like a year ago. I just watched it the other day. Again, to kind of get a refresher because I kind of put it to the side because I didn't quite understand at the time the reasoning for this, you know, extended process. There's so many steps involved when you can just use FlexTime and literally hit, you know, 1 or 2 buttons and you're done. But this just sounds so much better. It doesn't time stretch anything. It doesn't create a lot of, you know, funky, weird artifacts. It just sounds clear and precise, and it's kind of the method I've been looking for all along. So we're almost done with this. Bear with me. All right, now they're all selected, all those regions. Now, like I said, they're all overlapping to the right. So what we want to do is make them all kind of snap back to the grid so that they land at the beginning of the previous transient. So they're all selected. Now, a couple key commands I want to show you guys that I set up previously. It's I have it set up as shift right bracket. So it moved everything over so that it just hit touching the next subsequent region. So there are instances where something is short. So if you were to trim region gain that way, it would actually extend it as opposed to cutting it backwards. We don't want to do that because, as you can see, it just duplicated the transient. So that's going to be real artifacty. That's not going to sound natural. We don't want that at all. So we just trimmed all those regions that we had selected. In this case, they were pulled back so that they aligned up on the grid. Now we have all these spaces, right? We've got all these gaps here, and that's no good at all because that's just going to sound completely terrible. So what we want to do next is select all of those regions again. And this time you can incorporate the first region too because it's not quantized, but it can still benefit from this move. So if we zoom in with all of those selected, right, we have all those gaps all over the place. You know, that would sound terrible. Now what we're going to do is a different key command to bring the front of those regions, the start of those regions, back so they touch the previous region. So again, I'm going to put that up on screen. So this one is shift left bracket. Boom, now we're done. Now all of the regions are exactly touching and all of the transients are right on the grid as they should be because, you know, now it's quantized. That's how we wanted it. So the final step in all of this to make this sound good and not glitchy at all is select all those regions again if they're not already selected, and we're going to incorporate a fade between all of those, equal power fades between all of those regions, which it's already selected. And then the value, I select anywhere from like 3 to 5 or 6. People have said all different numbers. I tend to use 4 for whatever reason, and then hit J to join all the regions, and that is your newly quantized and rejoined region. So let's go back to the beginning here. So this is actually going to go, this is quantized left. So we're going to put this down here, right there. This should have been already labeled left. And then this one is going to be quantized right. Okay, now, yeah, now we're going to do the same thing with the second region here. So we've already cut it earlier. We're going to zoom in on it. Same process all over again. E, detect transients. Search to make sure that the transients are in the right place and that there are no erroneous transient markers, you know, where they shouldn't be. So if there are some that you see sometimes in the middle of a slide or a couple of note sequence that you know shouldn't be there, or you've listened to it, you know, like this, and there's just extra transient markers that shouldn't be there, just double click to delete them. Basically, it's that simple. So this obviously comes in early. We want it right on the transient, and same process, just to go through that all over again. Shouldn't take you too long. This part's pretty quick. Again, we're going to time lapse all this, guys, so you're not going to have to like deal with me doing this for 10 minutes. Yeah, so this part basically sucks, but if you want your audio to sound perfectly on the grid, you know, for certain sections, it's an artistic choice, you know, to do it or not. You're gonna have to do this, so it's complete. Now, lastly, we're gonna do a little comparison here. So let's put this down. This was the right quantized. I want to name these all properly so that you guys don't get confused. Okay, so these two tracks here are the originals, and they weren't played terribly. I mean, I got pretty decent performance except for the couple opening notes. We're going to go through all that next week when I play the whole song. But let's see how this sounds, and we'll compare these to one another. So here is the original right now. Okay, now we're going to go and check out the quantized versions. All right, so you get the point. Now, if we zoom in and we, let's see, make that a little bit bigger, just so you visually can see what's going on. Here's the original performances. Obviously, I'm early there, and they're not even in time. These are right on the grid, and then you can just kind of click along and see, you know, again, these are right on the grid. These are both right on the grid. That one's a little early from the previous, right on the grid. Yeah, so you get the point. I mean, obviously, you know, the quantized version is going to be much tighter. It's going to just sound more like it's locked in, like it's one performance, like it's supposed to sound, right? You just don't want to sound all washy. That's my method now for quantizing, and it sounds pretty clean. If we listen to this one more time now with the click track on. That's the heavy part. That's for next week, guys. And that is how I quantize now. I'm no longer going to be using this one here. I'm not going to be using flextime anymore because it just, it distorts, it time stretches or shortens, and it just does a whole lot of stuff that you don't need. So if you don't get a great performance, that's the first thing, obviously. That is rule number one. Try to get the best performance you can. I just want to show you guys my new work through now for quantizing, because this just, although it's a little bit time intensive, it just makes it sound so much better. I'm really thankful that I did see that Nick Broomhall video, because he gave me 95% of it. I changed like one or two things, but I kind of wanted to work it out for myself and for my audience who maybe didn't see that video. It's been very helpful to me. So, you know, shout out to Nick. This track is going to be for next week's Monday Metal Mayhem. So stick around for that. And make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff, guys. Meanwhile, one more time, let's hear some of that heavy guitar right now, because this is what I'm really looking forward to showing you guys a little more of next week once we build the song out. That is so sweet. I cannot wait to show you guys the rest of that track. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching, guys. And next week, we will try to get this video out to you on time. So look for it on Monday. And until then, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm out of here. See ya!